Welcome to Quora Anonymous. If this is your first time and you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you would like to read along, turn on closed captioning with the 3 dots in the upper right corner. Now, let's begin. What is your dirtiest sexual experience as an adult? I'm good friends with a couple who own a beautiful house with a pool. We've been friends for about 6 years. They are probably about 15 years older than I am. I'm often invited over to play cards or board games. We live in a small town and have mutual friends. On the 4th of July I was visiting with one of them, and the wife shows up. We are sitting in lawn chairs drinking and talking, and it's pretty obvious she was already intoxicated. That made the host a little uncomfortable. During conversation she casually mentioned she found me attractive. Now I'm no Fabio, just your average guy. By now the host has decided he's had his limit and excuses himself. That was the cue he didn't want to continue drinking. We all said thank you for having us and started leaving. The wife said to me as we left, "Hey, why don't you come over to our house and watch the fireworks?" I had no other plans, so I agreed. I arrived a few minutes later and said hello to her husband. He said everyone was down by the pool. I made my way down there and there are 2 other people from the neighborhood hanging out as well. I sat poolside with a beer watching everyone play in the water. Occasionally the wife would fling water at me and taunt me to get in. I'm in denim shorts and t-shirts. I declined as I had no bathing suit. About 5 minutes later 2 of them caught me off guard and pulled me right in. Fully dressed. I clambered back out and emptied the contents of my pockets on the table and jumped back in. WTH right. In about 30 seconds the wife is over splashing and playing. All of a sudden she groped my package underwater. I thought to myself, that has to an accident, but no, she made it even more blatant the second time. I will admit I was both embarrassed and turned on at the same time. By now it's dark and the mosquitoes are out, so everyone that is left is hunkering down in the pool, just their eyes and noses above water. The wife swims to where I'm at and unzipped my shorts. I was too stunned to say anything. Her husband is 6 feet away. I swam away and zipped back up. She swam closer and unzipped me again and reached right in. I was completely floored. But I didn't stop it. Her husband got out and went to get more drinks. She immediately started stroking me. By now I was over the embarrassment. It was so hot. Her husband returned and I had to face the pool wall to hide my erection. We sipped on our drinks until the fireworks started. Everyone moved to one side of the pool to watch. She swam in front of me and unzipped my shorts again. Then she took my hand and put it between her legs. OMG, she was on fire. She casually turned around and backed up to me. She had somehow removed her swimsuit bottom without anyone noticing. She rubbed her slit against me and started moaning under her breath. I was so excited I almost couldn't contain myself. She continued to work herself against me and then in I went. She grunted and pushed so hard against me. I exploded inside her. I couldn't hold it. She turned around and smiled. She carefully zipped me up and swam away. The whole time her husband wasn't more than 6 feet away. I don't know if it is because she's married, because others were there, or because her husband was there, or all of the above, but it was an incredible turn on. I would love to be invited to another pool party. Well, it happened almost 22 years back, when I had completed my 10+2 and planning to join an engineering college. Given the financial condition my parents were, my mom had recommended me to take up BSc and become a teacher, which she was too. I was good at studies and wanted to become an engineer. I insisted on that. So, we started arranging for money to pay set free seat fee. My father and I landed in Bangalore for the counseling process. Those days it was happening in Bangalore for the entire state. We were short of some amount. I think we were short by around $300 to $400. So, Dad and I went to nearby pawn shop and sold our watches. I don't know how much the shop guy believed in our story, but he gave decent money. Now, with that we had the exact money for the fee. When we arrived at the counseling center, we found that we had to prepare a DD for the fee amount. And we did not have the money to pay DD charges. I was shocked to the core. My dad went to fetch money from a friend of his, and I was asked to wait near the center. The time was running, and I had to ask someone to help there. So, I asked this parent, who was awaiting for his son's counseling there. I showed him my marks card and papers. I don't know what convinced him, but he gave me the money for the DD, around 50 rupees. I ran to the nearest bank, got the DD done, and by the time my dad returned with some money, I was inside the counseling center, which I could not have entered without DD. And I did get a seat in the engineering college I was interested in, and in many ways, that day changed the direction of my life. Except my dad, whom I told next day, and probably mom. I don't think anyone knows about it so far. I have not even shared it with my wife. I did not even ask the address and name of the gentleman who helped me that day. Probably, my state of mind was completely focused on getting myself an engineering seat, or probably I was too selfish, and I could not meet the person after I came out from the counseling session that day. So, wherever he is, I'm very grateful to him. That engineering seat changed a lot to me and my family. I'm very much indebted. And to my parents, who did everything to help me with my studies, and I have never made them regret. P.S. Anonymous, because I don't want people to relate me to this story ever. Maybe I will tell it to my daughter one day, when she is of an age to understand. Edit 1. Thank you for all the views, upvotes and comments. Actually, I feel much better, since I had an opportunity to share this, though anonymously. Thanks. Edit 2. Even after couple of months of posting this, there are regular views and upvotes. Thanks you for reading my personal story. It's been one of deep secrets I have maintained for a long time now. When I was 18 I had a fight with a friend. She is a girl. Her mom was single, hot, busty, 38 and lonely. I only know that she feels empty and not wanted because I got 3 cell phone numbers. Invited her mom with one of my other numbers and pretended to be someone else. Her mom is a freak and into younger guys. The things she told me is mind-blowing crazy. She told me how she got a hotel room and let 2 16-year-old boys have their way with her. I asked her what would make her want to rip a guy's clothes off. She said, if a guy looked into her eyes and said I need you more than life itself, she would destroy him in bed. Anyway, the fight we had wasn't about that. She doesn't know about me chatting to her mom pretending to be someone else. So after the fight at another friend's place, I'm furious. She was sleeping over by that friend, which is also a girl. I take a cab to her house. Knock on the door and her mom lets me in. I ask her mom, can I confide in you? She says yes, I can talk to her about anything. So I lie and say my mom and dad are fighting and I just wanted to get out of the house. I feel really sad. She stands up and hugs me saying that everything is going to be okay. So I take a step back, look at her and say, I need you more than life itself. At first she just stands there in shock. Then says, you can sleep here for the today. I will call your mom to let her know. She gets me a pillow and blanket and says you can sleep in Sandra's bed. She is sleeping at a friend, not knowing that I know. I say, no thanks Miss Smith, I will sleep on the couch. I lay there for about 15 minutes and her mom comes out of the bedroom half naked. She says, how about I turn that frown upside down? Being 18 and a virgin, I say, yes please. Still very furious, but pretend to be sad. She pulls off my pants and sucks my dick. I get hard and she says, very nice Mike. Not to brag, but I'm long down south. I rub her pussy and she kisses me. Then she says, let me show you what a grown woman is capable of. I'm going to fuck your brains out. She sit on my dick and starts riding me like crazy. 5 minutes in I pull out and come on the floor. I apologize and say I will try harder next time. She replies with, I'm sure you will. So I say, get on your back Miss Smith. She tells me please call me Jade. She gets on her back, and I pull her to the edge of the couch. Her ass is hanging off. I grab her ankles, arch her legs a bit back, and say, now it's my turn. She says, give it to me, big boy. I thrust my dick hard into her cunt, and start hate fucking her. I shove it in deep and hard with every stroke. After about 20 minutes she screams, I'm going to fucking come. She lets out a cry and squirts. Her pussy fluid is all over the wooden floor and running down her fat ass. She says, Mike, don't be afraid to fill me up. Those words are so powerful that I fuck her like a rabbit on Monster energy drink. I get lost in that moment of ecstasy and tell her I'm gonna come. She says, yes Mike, please come in my pussy. Her begging turns me on even more, and I explode inside her. The rest of the night we tear each other out. The next morning we fuck about another 3 times. As I leave to go home I turn around, and she is smiling, while biting her bottom lip. Not even home yet, and I start getting messages. It's her telling me about the night before, and the next morning thinking that she is chatting to someone else. We chat till I get home, and then I tell her that I'm going to be busy till 7 PM. I'm glad she enjoyed me. I still see her in public from time to time, and she can't stop talking about what happened and how she felt that night 10 years ago. I'm glad she took my virginity. It all started from October last year with a random friend request that I sent seeing her DP only. Was hoping that she just accept it anyhow. And she did. After the initial hi hello, we got into happenings of each other's life. I got to know that she is a wife of a government servant who has been kept as a helper by his officer at his home to assist the officer and his family. She was beautiful, sexy, what we call used to take good care of herself, and definitely was good at heart. I don't know how or what was the reason, but things happened so fast. At first we used to chat on FB only, then exchanged numbers and used to talk on phone for hours at a stretch. I do not know what made her like me, but she was so much into me. When I asked her once, she told me, it is the way you speak your talks, your maturity is the reason why I leave everything aside to receive your call and listen to you. She used to run her own small business of ready-made garments. She once told me that nobody has ever understood me the way you have. Hearing it, I asked her, not even your husband? To which she replied, we live under the same roof, but never ever talk to each other. This made me more curious, or whatever you call it, but this gave me an idea of what she is going through. And I wanted to know more, and help her in any possible way. Later she revealed that it's been a decade since he has touched her intimately. When I asked her the reason, she told me that she don't allow him. And when she disclosed the reason behind her not allowing to touch, made almost everything clear to me. It was because he had an affair with the officer's wife, and also had abused her sexually in the initial days of her marriage. To the point where he used to tie her to the bed and use to satisfy himself in his own way. He was a drinker also. He used to do all that stuff after getting drunk. This was what she had been through. After knowing this, I realized that love is all that she is lacking and is in need of. And that I could give her. And probably this was the reason why she was so much into me. Now I was waiting for an opportunity to meet her anyhow. Because we had enough talks, enough chats. Chats and calls have their own limits. Meeting in person and being physically together has its own experience, and that was something for which both of us were waiting for. Luckily one day she told me that her family is going to her home state for her niece's marriage. She used to live in a joint family. So all of them were going barring her. She told me that everybody was insisting her to accompany, but she anyhow convinced them and is staying back. She used to live in Gurgaon and her native place was in Punjab. I understood what she's going to utter next. Before she could speak anything, I told her that I will be there. I asked the details like their date of departure and as to for how long they will be there. They were going for a week. As soon as they left their home, I left mine. She asked me to meet at a certain point where I reached, and she was already there to receive me. Once we recognized each other, she asked me to follow her. which I did. In a few minutes we reached her home. She entered and I followed. She locked the door. For a while both of us were standing near the door only and were looking at each other. None of us exchanged a word. We're just looking into each other's eyes. It was for the first time that I was with a girl or a lady all alone at home with whom I have such kind of bonding. And I knew what all is going to happen, where it all is heading. Maybe she also knew and was prepared for it, which I got to know later on. But thereafter, having looked at each other for a while, she asked, "Hassan AI, did you like me?" And in response to it, I hugged her. It was my first hug of such kind. I was thinking of making her feel good, which she definitely felt, I think, but I myself felt so nice that I can't explain. It was a different feeling. I registered such feeling for the first time in my life. Then she made me sit on sofa. Brought water for me. There we chatted for a while, and then she took me to her room, which was upstairs. There we sat and got lost in our own world. I was so desperate to do everything, I don't know why. Whether it was in the era she also wanted the same, or because I was going to do all the stuff for the first time. We were hugging, cuddling, kissing, and doing everything which would lead us to ultimate thing. And as I proceeded to take her inners off, she stopped me, saying, "Abhi Tapori rat baki hey, the whole night is there." Hearing this I stopped. She wanted to do puja first, as it was evening by then. And it was time for the puja. So we did the puja together. And later, after having dinner, we're back to our thing. She treated me in a very special way. Used to bring milk to bed in a glass every day after dinner, before starting our deed. All the memories are still so fresh as if it all happened yesterday. We used to be in the kitchen together, making love while cooking. I tried to help her in kitchen by washing utensils while she was cooking, but she didn't allow me. She used to tease me sometimes by deliberately touching her hips, or I must say pressing them against my thing, when she used to bend to take anything in the kitchen. I used to eat all her lipstick as soon as she put it. I would sometimes put dal chawal on her breast while eating, and then would lick it. She used to enjoy everything. She was so happy the whole time till I stayed there. We were good in bed. Initially I ejaculated very early, as I penetrated vagina for the first time in the past 22 years. But later, after 2 to 3 more sessions, it took reasonable time. I remember her saying, when I made her come for the first time, that "Ab bakabada ho ja hey, now the kid has grown up." She treated me like a husband for those 5 to 6 days, and I her as a wife. As that was my only motive, to give her all that she has not received all her life from her husband in these days. I knew that it will not be enough for her, but at least she would have something to cherish for rest of her life. And I wanted to make most out of it. Which I did. And I'm happy about it. Once she told me in the kitchen, when I kissed on her neck, that, "Kashe sa husband ho tatabat hai kayathi, if I had a husband like you then things would have been different." She once proceeded to press my feet when we were lying in bed and were about to sleep. To which I denied, but agreed when she insisted. I also knew that she also wants to feel everything in her own way, so I'll let her feel and fulfilled all her wishes for which she was asking for, wanted to do, or had a fantasy for. Once when I was sucking her boobs, and the right one was in my mouth, she asked me to bite it as hard as I could. This I couldn't comprehend at first, but not giving much thoughts to it, I did as she wanted, and bit it so hard that it was enough to leave mark as a memory and make her feel the pain or experience whatsoever she wanted to. Not so hard that my teeth cut through her soft and tender boob skin and cause any injury. On several occasions I was hit with the feeling of intense love from her side. Once we were in missionary, and I was in the rhythm doing it slowly. At the same time kissing her on her forehead, lips, and everywhere on her chest, neck, behind her ears, sucking her tits and earlobes. Looking at her face, and into her eyes, and suddenly she started crying. And said, "Itna paya kroj to fur, kais jeepon geet mer bina, how would I live without you, if you all love me so very much?" And that was the time when I realized how much love can influence others. How much power it has. And those tears were the indication that now I need to control myself. If I will keep generating love now, things can go out of hand. And it will be difficult to control them afterwards. And from there on I decreased it slowly. Consoled her. Made sure that she will be happy afterwards. Made her promise me that she won't repent, that I'm not with her, but instead would be grateful that we had such a wonderful time together. And so am I. It was my first experience of such kind, and couldn't have thought of better than this. Both of us made all of our fantasies real in that period of time. Tried few positions. Last was the doggy, with which our sexual ride came to an end. My lips were paining due to kissing and sucking. On the morning of 31st, I left her home as my train was at 10 AM. I didn't do anything intimate while returning. Morning was usual. She made breakfast for me. Packed few pair of this stuffed bread for the journey. After having breakfast, when I was washing my hands, she was standing in front of me at a distance and was looking at me. I asked her permission to leave. She granted verbally. I threw a splash or water on her face which drenched her face and breasts. Few drops reached her tummy making way through her cleavage. She smiled and I left. If you made it this far, you owe it to yourself to subscribe.